Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina Collier, author of The Robot Proof Recruiter, which I may just occasionally share every single show. And of course, I'm a candidate engagement speaker and facilitator. I'm of course joined by my gorgeous, talented talent acquisition professional, talented Ben Martin, who refuses to let me say what he actually does for a living. Super excited today to have Sophie, it is not pronounced Broberger, on the show to talk about whether you invest in your people, don't invest in your people, who should, etc. So welcome to the Social Recruiting Show.
Welcome to the show, Sophia.
Thank you.
Tell us what you're up to at the moment from a professional perspective, because you've recently changed your role.
Well, I am now 100% freelancing, where I work part of my time for TV4 in Sweden, recruiting all of the developers and kind of tech-related roles, and part of my time spent training recruiters in being better at sourcing and looking kind of beyond LinkedIn. So bursting the LinkedIn bubble and going out into the world going, oh, look, there's people there too.
Beyond LinkedIn. Is there life beyond LinkedIn?
Swedish recruiters are quite lost in LinkedIn, yes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
No. That's quite worrying, isn't it?
Yes.
So, to the topic, investing in oneself when you're a recruiter. What kind of led you to sort of think a little bit more about this and it become a kind of topic that's really front and center for you, Sophia?
Well, the main reason for me going on to be a freelancer was to have more time to invest in myself. It wasn't money, it wasn't whatever, it was being able to kind of go, well, today I'm only going to read blogs or write blogs or read a book or whatever, and being allowed to do so. And also, like in the spring, being allowed to go to like a conference a month if I felt like it. Yeah. Because I think if you're
it's that weird permission thing, right?
Yeah. They're like, oh, you can go to one conference a year or something generally if you're an employee. And it's I sort of get it from the employee's perspective, time, money, and all of that. But it's also that's what I wanted, and also, I must say because I was employed by TV4, and then they took me on as a freelancer kind of straight after that. But even then, they were really good. They were kind of, well, you're the expert. You do, what you need with your time. So within that space, I was allowed to spend a lot of time reading blogs, being active in forums, even as an employee, which I felt when working for an agency, I wasn't allowed to give that time because it was so much, we need to build, spend your time doing that. And they didn't see the necessity in investing in becoming better, as in for the future. Whereas where I worked in-house, they did see that more, but I wanted even more time.
I'm trying to remember how much time we spent in training. So in 5 years at Spring, I think I maybe had 2 or 3 days.
Maybe.
At the odd conference.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask Sophia, because I think, clearly, Katrina's been working for herself for a number of years very successfully. I've recently, only in the last sort of 18 months, made that leap. I'm interested to understand from your point of view, what was the catalyst for you to make that move? Because there may be some people sitting in full-time employment at the moment, agency side, in-house, that are thinking about kind of going freelancing. But what was the real catalyst for you? What were the reasons why you made that transition?
Well, I moved from agency to in-house, and the role I got in-house was a 1-year maternity leave cover. So already within that first few months of that year, I was going, what am I going to do when this contract finishes? And I kind of started, because I started learning more and more, getting into more Facebook groups, communities, conferences, and all of that. I was going, well, I could do freelance. Then I'll have because the contract's going to end anyway. Yeah. Rather than seeking another full-time employment, I could do this. And also, more and more people were asking, kind of, why aren't you doing any training? And I'm like, oh, I can do that. So I decided to do that as well. And in the end, the year got extended for another few months, and then they wanted to extend it even more. And I said, well, next time, I'm not going to accept the extension. You have to take me on as a consultant. And they agreed to doing that. So I was kind of lucky.
It's a nice way to ease into it, isn't it?
Yes. So not everyone has that opportunity. Yeah. But even people question me when I resigned from a full-time employment, accepting a 1-year contract. They're like, well, how can you, resign from a full-time and then you go for a 1-year contract? I'm like, well, I'm a tech recruiter. I'm going to find another job. It's going to be fine.
I think there's just that enormous, it shows more about them than yourself, but I had it as well. And, I've been doing this for 10 years, and the number of people that ask me, how did you take the leap? Because you are leaving a salary check. You are leaving regular. But like you said, there's so many benefits. And also you get to do the work that really makes you sit up and you enjoy.
Yeah, you do what you enjoy.
Do you not think that that the illusion of permanence has gone now? After the kind of financial crisis and stuff like that, the permanent employment is almost an illusion now. Large scale companies doing biannual kind of voluntary redundancies, rationalizing the numbers of headcount in a workforce. It's cycles like this. I spoke to an individual a couple of weeks back, and he'd been through like 6 cycles of redundancy in a company. So this illusion of permanence, people need to get past it, because it's a real stop. It's a blockage for them jumping into that freelance world.
It's probably different in Sweden, but you do get that regular paycheck. Might be harder to fire people in Sweden than it is here.
But it is. We have quite strong unions and things like that, so it is hard to fire people. But it's still, even if you want to get a mortgage, if you're a freelancer, you got to. But if you have a permanent employment, they're like, "Here's your mortgage. There you go." If you're not, they kind of go, "Oh, can you prove your income a little bit more?"
Great. You could have been in the job for 6 months and you could be out the next week.
Exactly.
But you're a freelancer for 10 years. Can't get one.
It's still that kind of stuff that people, if I'll speak to people and they don't want even to change jobs because I'm just about to buy a house. So can you contact me in 3 months when I bought the house, and then I can change jobs. So there's still that, even if you've not been in a job long enough, the bank's not going to give you a mortgage kind of thing. So you still have those aspects of the security of what you're after.
So on the point of kind of the other piece of the side of this, which is obviously making the leap. What about individuals that are slightly nervous around, how do I structure my day? How do I get of kind of doing things that I know I'm productive? If you haven't done that before, and you typically kind of had a structure, making that move into slightly more unstructured, self-propelled, you've got to motivate yourself. How did you find that? How did you approach that?
I'm still just doing the things that I enjoy. The other stuff I'll leave for someone else to do. And it's like, it might be the boring stuff I have to do. So I have a list of things that I really, really need to do. And, when it really is like the day before, then I'll do them kind of thing. I'm still just doing what I enjoy.
You get a structure because you've got kids. So you have your day starts and ends at certain times. And certainly like even with this, it had to fit in with that. And I have the dogs. So I go out work with the dogs and start my day. It can be hard to end your day. That's where I find it tough.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, my kids will end them for me. There's jump on my lap.
Yeah, mine tried. They kind of are furry, so I can push them off. So as far as so we got talking when we were talking about like the pre-show, and it was like this constant thing, and I was remembering the royalties go to charity. Before I say this and sound conceited, getting kind of frustrated when I'm hearing heads of talent acquisition going, well, I'll buy one for the library, as in my book, and you started your Sophia's book club, thank you, off the back of this book, which is so awesome. But it was this sort of frustration of, why aren't we investing in the people that hire the people?
And to me, it's not just in that case of buying the book. It's not just being able to read the book and learn from it, but also if you buy that book to somebody, like 10 books for 10 people in the team, they'll feel that little bit more special. The whole kind of looking after employees. It could have been a chocolate bar, but just the fact that they bought you something.
Buying one and saying share.
Yeah, it's like it's just being able to, like, the feeling of being given a gift from your employer, whether it's a book or a chocolate bar. It's also that looking after the employees in that sense.
Yeah.
And
I love the way Michael. Oh, sorry.
No, but I think that's more. It's probably more likely to be read as well. It's kind of, here is your book, and everyone gets the book.
Yeah. I love the way Michael Cox has done it. So he's got a team of 20, and he's done like we're going to do a book club, and he will buy it for the ones that opt in, and only 6 opted in initially. Now it's got to 10, because then it's this, I can't miss out. And he said, will you dial in? And I'm sure like Jan would do the same thing, would be happy to like dial in on a call like this and just chit chat through some of it, because it's just an investment of our time. And it's just to get, again, that enthusiasm, that team feeling. But I mean, obviously that's only one way. I mean, we've already talked about not being allowed to go to conferences. It's kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, on that point around, being given a book, equally as well, it shows if you're kind of like the sort of line manager, it illustrates that you've been listening to that individual in your team. You've been listening to their interests. So there may not necessarily be a book directly related to the job that they're in, but it actually may actually support their growth. And I think that in itself kind of creates a very different kind of relationship as well, kind of like team member to manager, which I think is really important. And to your point, and the point of this show, is about that investment, right? Mm-hmm. Investing in oneself, but equally having people around you that are prepared to kind of invest and listen and share kind of knowledge with you, right? So, I mean, in terms of the kind of book club itself, how can people kind of access it? What's the dynamic? How's it working?
Well, my little book club, because my little book club is just an idea I had, because obviously I'm quite visible on LinkedIn, create a lot of content, and I'd like to mix it up between my content, but it shouldn't just be all about me. It should also be about other.
Oh, it should be all about you.
No, it should be partly about me, but it should be partly about you. No, but also about things that I find interesting and the things that I learn from, and not just kind of going, this is what I know and my things. And I think that's also what I liked about your book, that it isn't just about you and your experiences. It's like hardly anything about you and your experiences in there. It's about gathering other people's ideas and experiences and stuff. And I love that. And so
mind
I
you,
just wanted
to
to
lob it across the room a couple of times. I'm just
it frustrated me. The book,
frustrated.
Katrina's been getting like a written commentary of me reading the book through Messenger, going, "Why are you writing this?"
You make great social media posts. I should just crop them and put them out. I nearly threw your book across the room. Would you like to explain why, though?
Yeah, kind of why I want to throw the book. It's not really because the book is really nice, been treating me well, so it's not the book, but it's things in the book that I really want to be doing, but I haven't been given the opportunity or kind of mandate to look after. So I feel like, but I want to do that. Why can't I be allowed in where I am right now to be responsible for this area and deal with it? Or maybe I don't have time to do it. So just kind of great examples of things you can do, and it's just frustrating me that I don't have currently the possibility of taking every idea from the book and go and do it. So my idea, and kind of when there was something like that, I would start kind of messaging Katrina going about something I've read, and I'm going, well, why don't I do this kind of publicly instead of ranting just to Katrina? I can rant on LinkedIn. I'm good at that.
But it can also be really good, because if you go like, I'm feeling really frustrated that I can't do this, and then the community comes in and goes, well, have you tried this way or this way? And then it comes up with even more ideas, which is just, that's why I love the Facebook groups, which I think is kind of sad when recruiters go, I'm not going to get off LinkedIn and go to Facebook, because you're kind of going, the Facebook recruitment groups are really good at brainstorming ideas. Yeah.
Really. So, but the book club then is every Friday at 9, I post something on LinkedIn about this book, like a new thing that I've read and everything, and kind of trying to create a discussion around it, and people are joining in. I even have people following the hashtag. I'm like, woohoo!
Excellent.
Yeah. I must monitor my hashtag better.
Yeah, and we'll post a hashtag as well towards the end, just so everybody can kind of get on board. But what kind of comments have you got so far? What kind of interaction have you got? I mean, is there anything that's really surprised you in terms of some of the commentary that's come your way in terms of some of the books? Is there anything slightly enlightening?
Sophia, are you being paid by Katrina?
No, I am totally not.
It was a joke.
By the way, I really am not. I'm not. No, but it's a lot of people kind of going, is it worth buying the book? I'm like, yeah, totally.
Oh, what?
Yeah, but it was going, is it, people are, that's one of the questions, or I think every post has got that, do you think it's worth investing in this book? I'm like, totally.
It's peer review, right? People want to know, is it a worthwhile investment of my money and time? You've read it, give me a kind of synopsis. And, that kind of referral is really important, right?
Confession time. I had 2 books from the same publisher, right? And they're 20 quid. Like, they're not cheap books. And I was holding both of them, and one weighed more than the other. And I'm like, I'm going to write this and make sure that this weighs the heavier one. Because I was thinking the same thing. But actually, now that I see it put together, with all of the proper case studies and the proper tips and the proper examples all the way through it, I'm like, oh, it's so worth more than 20 quid. But I get where they're coming from, because that's how I was feeling initially, which is a really weird thing to say about your own book. But so sorry, that was like a random off on one. But it's like, I kind of get it and I kind of don't, because there's part of me goes, but it's so good. Yeah, anyway, I'm a bit biased though, I know.
Well,
this whole show has become about my book, and it's meant to be about why don't people invest in people.
Yeah, okay.
Not me. Much can we just have a shout out for my Don't Ghost Me badge from Louise Triance? Thank you very much. I love that.
Awesome. So, Sophia, what did you want your employer to invest in with regards to your career that they didn't do, and now you actually have got that by going freelance yourself? What were the 2 or 3 things that were clearly not accessible when you were an employee?
Well, I don't think I would have been allowed to go to 6 conferences in 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
That's one thing. It might be slightly excessive.
And did you learn from each conference, all 6?
There's always something you learn from, whether it's from the actual speakers, or whether it could be from the speaker when they're on stage, but it could also be from the speaker when you speak to them off stage.
Yeah.
Me, 50% or perhaps more of going to a conference is about the networking and being allowed to kind of chat to people, and the speaker could mention something on stage, and you kind of go afterwards going, well, how do you actually do that? And they're like, here's my laptop, and you'll sit down with them and they will properly show you whether you might not have been able to show exactly on stage, or just having a chat and kind of going, what did you mean by that, or can you explain that more? And having spoken myself, people will ask me as well, and I will sit down with them with my laptop and show them.
So I speak, you speak, Glenn speaks, we all speak. Do we? However, and I always say this and no one believes me, I fall on that slight introvert side. So I can feel apprehensive to go and walk up to people. And I certainly have been told by people that apprehensive to walk up to me, it just makes me laugh. But do you have advice for people to just, do you know what I mean? It's one thing to say, go and talk to the speakers, but a lot of people are like, oh, I can't, they've just been up on the stage, oh my God. And they, for some reason, elevate to this position of God, which we're not, we're just the same person on and off.
But also, I mean, I'm different. Like you say, you're more of introvert. I'm extrovert. I can't actually get energy from standing on stage and afterwards. So I'm happy speaking. But maybe you might not be the right person to go if you come off stage and go talk to you.
No.
They but me
going to people.
But kind of just mingle at the events and talk to them. And I mean, it's lovely if somebody comes up to you saying, "Oh, I really liked your talk." You're going to be like, "Yeah, I'll give you attention." So I think it's in a way it's difficult for me to give advice because I'm not scared of doing that, surprisingly enough. But we are just.
Have you not ever been awestruck and been like, "I gotta go talk to them"? No. Oh.
Clearly not. No. No.
Trying to think of it.
What about you, Glenn? Have you? Because I'm just saying, we're looking to maximize the conference impact, which is go talk to the speaker. I mean, you felt a bit like a.
Yeah, when you go to events, sometimes, I mean, the speaker comes off stage, immediately they're surrounded by about 2 or 3 or 4 people that, either they know or, like Sophia, who are quite comfortable going up and just making conversation. And there's always that period of, how long do I stand here waiting to speak to them before it looks really odd? So you kind of got to, I guess you got to kind of choose your time.
Well, there's normally drinks afterwards and things, you could, do that. It doesn't have to be as they come off stage and kind of go, oh, jump on them. You can, and there's normally mingle, there's after, the drinks afterwards, like I said, or the next day or whenever, or even sending them an email later on. What I really liked what Dove was saying at SOSU in Tallinn last year. He was going, how he, and I think he's mentioned it in Mark's show as well, how he volunteered. And one of his job as a volunteer was to kind of make sure the speakers were in the right room at the right time. And that's how he kind of naturally got to know the speakers. And I think so. Take the opportunity to volunteer, or like Source can be part of the welcome wagon, or take the opportunity to be part of the organization of the conference as well, then you kind of quite naturally are getting that one step closer to the people you want to learn from.
Totally. And what else have you got now that you're a freelancer that you didn't have, from an investment perspective in terms of being a permanent employee? What other things have you been able to access and do?
Just do what I want with my time.
Yeah.
Like I posted a pic. One of the things I posted on LinkedIn that's actually like it got over 10,000 views was just a picture of freaking Katrina's book. No, but it's a picture of Katrina's book on my balcony with a cup of coffee next to it. Going,
Yeah.
and I wrote, this is why I started freelancing, being able to sit on the balcony in the sun on a Friday afternoon. And that's got amazing amount of, I'm like, how did that post just go mental?
It's funny. I think I don't have kids, so it's very different for me. I don't have the set structure, and actually, I'm not married like you. You both are as well, so I have a less of a structure. But like last week, there was no way I was going to do any work, and the joy of being freelance was I just decided, I'm going to go book this holiday I've been wanting to book for ages, and I just took the whole day off. But I worked on Sunday because it suited me, and oh my god, I got so much done. It was brilliant because I can do that, and that's the bit I love about.
So Sorry, and that holiday looks amazing, by the way. Very impressive.
My midlife crisis trek.
Yeah. But so here's a devil's advocate question for you. In terms of companies, they think they're investing in their employees by running training. So case in point, recently, where one of the companies I'm kind of working with, their head of talent ran a really wicked a Q&A session with this chap who's like a kind of serial entrepreneur. Awesome content. But it didn't quite land, I think, as successfully as perhaps they wanted, because the audience weren't quite sure how to access it. Was it relevant for me? Was it not relevant for me? So when the employer really thinks, they've got some really great content to share, really great training, but it's not matched by maybe the employees' kind of expectation, do you think that creates a bit of a kind of disconnect? Because the employer generally has the right intention, but actually it's probably not landing as well as they want.
But to me, that is still better than providing nothing. Because I hear so much about, because I talk about training, people go, yeah, we really encourage people to read blogs and books in their free time. Like, there's always that. Well, we encourage our people to learn as long as they don't do it during work hours. It's like, well, hang on.
This was during work hours. This is 2 hours work time for people to come along and kind of.
But that's what I mean. Even if that falls slightly not right, at least they were allowed. It was during, because a lot of companies don't even give them we send them to training, or we write books for them, but they have to read them when they're not at work. It's like, well, that's not investing.
But also shows they're not listening. They're not really hearing. And I think it's funny because the three of us really want the true flexibility. It's like, we've got flexible working. You don't really. It's not like we've got. But it's the same thing, isn't it? They didn't really listen to what the employees really wanted, and they went and put someone, hence it didn't actually land. Whereas if they went, we want Sophia to come in and teach us sourcing, they'd all be sitting there at attention because they got the person they wanted.
I guess it's about kind of garnering that. So if you're not getting much kind of feedback from the employees, so you're sort of almost offering them all these different options, what appeals to you, and people start signing up, you kind of think, well, that's an indication of their interest. So then you run the session, and then obviously it's the kind of feedback piece afterwards. But it's interesting, employees with the right intention may not land as well as they want, but the quality of the content's really, really there. I mean, as a trainer, Katrina, surely you've been brought in by the business sometimes and you're like, this is an awesome training session for the employees, and then they just sit there and it doesn't land. And how do you well, and knowing
can I tell you the best one I had? Literally, oh my god. So I've always trained recruiters in the past. I'm not doing that now, I'm facilitating instead. But I had this girl who sat through the entire day and was like, what you're saying, and then just threw the book down and walked out. And I'm just like, wow. She would have future-proofed herself if she'd taken on that sourcing knowledge and the social recruiting knowledge. But she just decided her job was to manage the recruitment agents, and that was her in-house recruitment job. Literally, that's what she did. She actually managed the recruitment agents. She wasn't prepared, and it was just like, wow. But I can't change that about her. I was just like, well, that's your loss, isn't it? That's how I
Okay.
actually took it on. Because the funny thing about training, I'm sure Sophia will agree, is people are not going to implement it unless they're given the time to implement it or they really want to. You have to lose your concern as to whether they'll actually use it, because otherwise you just burn out.
It's more of a kind of you show them one way and your recommended way and giving them new ideas, but it's so easy for them to kind of fall back into the old way of doing things. But I've done people attend, because I do both tailor-made for companies, but also do open classes. And I've had people who attended my open classes and then got back to me going, oh, we did really well 2 weeks after your training, and now we're kind of back into old ways. Could you come to our company and do a full day training with us? So they've done the first one, and because they're obviously wanting to change, because they're going, and it's the same, you can't just do that one and then expect everyone to change immediately. But I think that company, I mean, that's a recruitment agency, and I was obviously I would recommend them, because I feel they're investing in their people, they're investing and they're willing to kind of and we pretty much did the same training again, but that's what they wanted, and they really liked it.
But sometimes the second time it sits in, because I've had similar as well. I've trained one person, then come in and train the team, and then the second time stuff lands, which wasn't landing before. It's like going, because it's a lot to take in. It's not the best way to learn, but a lot of the time it is just come in for a day, isn't it? It'd be much easier if you could stretch it out over a year and have 5 minutes a week or something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Sophia, then, what advice would you give to companies thinking about investing in their people? What tips?
Well, first of all, you need to give them time to learn. Like, not if you buy Katrina's book, do like every Friday lunchtime we'll have a discussion group kind of thing, so that they could read it partly in the free time, but also giving them some time during work hours, not just to expect it to be done in their free time. And what you said, if you're buying the wrong training, listen, what is it that they feel they want training? What is it they want to do? Is there a conference they really, really want to go to? Let them do that. And I think it's showing them that. And also, one of the most important thing is to me is being allowed then to experiment and try new things, and being allowed to fail.
Yeah.
That it isn't being allowed to kind of see something new, be allowed to try it, and it's okay if it doesn't work, even if that means you've spent a day and then end up with 0 results. That needs to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And in terms of people themselves, what would you kind of advise them to do when they're thinking about investing in themselves? Because you've mentioned during the show, all these different ideas flooding from sort of Facebook groups and all these different all this inspiration from books. You end up with all of these ideas, but then how do you kind of actually deliver on them? What kind of advice would you give the people in that kind of scenario where they're like, I want to do everything, and it's just not possible?
Pick one. Start with one. Pick a list.
Yeah.
But also kind of ask,
biggest problem you need to solve, I guess.
Yeah.
What's the greatest? Where's the best place to go to find an answer to this one problem that's really getting to you? I guess. I don't know.
And also,
Glenn, God.
But also, I think kind of share with other people that you're struggling with something.
Yeah.
It's allowed to kind of. So that's what you want as an employer. That's the environment you want to create, where it's okay to say, I'm struggling with this. How can I help? And kind of we'll go into a Facebook group if like me, you're the only recruiter in-house, whatever, and ask other people. People are so willing to help. So, and I think if you're willing, first of all, to kind of be open about what you're struggling with and ask for help, you'll get it. But then also start helping others, because you learn from sharing.
Yeah.
No, the whole kind of sharing is caring is so true.
If you're reluctant to be a bit vulnerable, I mean, a lot of the groups have a search bar, so you can often go in there and your question has been asked. So you could always search through and see if there's an answer before you then ask. And then you can say, I've looked through the group, like, oh my God, wow, none of you have had this issue. Am I being silly or help? Just be a bit vulnerable. I think it's good.
And maybe give yourself time as well, right? You can't do everything immediately. So think about, as you said, give it, almost plan it, because otherwise you'll end up starting loads of stuff and never finish anything. So, kind of just be realistic around the sort of time you've got to dedicate to some of these kind of, smaller projects that you might want to take forward.
So, shockingly, we're out of time. Is it?
Joking. We're just getting into stride.
Maybe we should just talk for another 15 minutes. Was there anything you felt you hadn't said that you just really want to go like, because the topic came from us being frustrated, didn't it? By just going, my God, they're the people bringing in the people. But is there?
No, but I think it's just.
Not really.
No, but I think that the most important thing is if you're an employer, allowing your employees to spend time. Maybe, you know, if it's, I don't know what kind of KPIs you have as a recruiter and all of that, but it should be okay to one day, you know, forget about them, or like half a day or a week or whatever, where it's time, have like a book circle, or have like a, I don't know, a recruiting brain food, what was your favorite article discussion? I don't know, something to encourage them to, even if then you want them to do it in the spare time, but if you encourage in the discussion and you're letting them try things at work, they might be open to doing some of the reading outside of working hours. If you then allowed to experiment during working hours.
Actually, when you think about it, because obviously I ran Disrupt HR London on Monday night, and Glenn was talking about it before we came on air, and that whole, you know, I had entire teams from companies come, and you think actually the next day they probably do need to sit down and say, oh God, what was your biggest takeaway? What are we going to do? Because they'll have heard so much. So same kind of idea, isn't it?
Totally.
Making the time. Oh, lots of work yet to be done in the industry. So, Sophia, thank you so much for coming on the show. And of course,
thank you, Sophia.
We will, of course, be back next week at exactly the same time, 3:00 on Friday. Oh God, I do this every week, Greenwich Mean Time. Are we still on that? I think we're still on British Summer Time, aren't we? Anyway, London time, as I always say, because I know the rest of the UK exists like that. Glenn's not even in London, so I'm dreadful. So thank you very much again. All of your pals. I know you're in Sweden. But clearly warm, I'm judging by the clothing. But anyway, thank you again, and we shall see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.